You ever been watching your favorite YouTuber and you see him doing something really cool with a project and you think to yourself, man, I could do that. So you buy a project, cut it into a million pieces, start welding it back together only to realize you have no idea what you're doing?
Well, the same thing kind of happened to me, and I had to learn how to TIG weld by watching YouTube videos. And I'm going to show you guys what I learned. My name is Bucky, and welcome to The Long Way.
I've got one of these Miller calculators. I'm going to cut this piece. Now, our project started after watching an episode of Full Custom Garage where Ian took a 10-ton military truck and turned it into a quad cab. We had bought one a couple of years ago, a 5-ton, and we really liked it. We turned it into a troop carrier and we used it to take our grandkids to the creek, run around town, and do all sorts of things. But we finally realized we had more grandkids than we had room. Then my wife showed me a picture of this. Wow, and I knew I needed to build it right now. I hopped on Facebook Marketplace and started wheeling and dealing. I found an old 5-ton cab and some doors, and we started cutting. When we cut the back of the cab off and pulled the floor up, we realized that it had all been eaten up with the cancerous rust. But after about a week and a half of pulling everything apart, we got down to some bare metal and I started laying some dimes. I'm pretty good with a MIG machine, so I was able to get the floor all put together, get the top put on it, and man, it really turned out well. Everything's nice and pretty. All the bends are nice. This is some of the best welding that I've ever done in my life. And luckily I was able to show you guys what it looked like. But when we got to the top, that's when the problem started. First thing was I didn't have the right tools for the job. I had to make a slip roller out of a piece of pipe and a stop sign. But that didn't stop us from making a really nice piece. These curves are perfect. They set right where they're supposed to. We're going to have a nice spot to weld on the back of the original cab, but it left us with some of those bat wings that you see up there, so we had to deal with those. We kept the original cab pieces and got those cut in, and with a little bit of Bondo and a little bit of paint, they really turned out good. But when we got to moving around to the front side, that's when we had a bunch of problems. I started tack welding across the front and realized that it wasn't going to work. I was putting a lot of heat in the panel, spreading it out, and I had to do a lot of hammering to flatten it out. I knew I was going to have to TIG weld, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience doing that. So I went and grabbed my TIG machine with the wrong rods, the wrong settings, and the wrong approach, and started welding. These holes are going to be really fun to fill up. We're going to give her the old try here. All right, until we select some holes. Putting too much heat in the panel. I'm using the wrong kind of rod, and it's just going to be a lot of work. It's going to take a lot of beating and banging to get this thing to look right. So I brought the wife up and we started working on it. Come to the very front of the hole.
What?
The back hole.
Well, you said the front hole, Mom.
Front hole's perfect. Was. So I knew I had to learn how to TIG weld, so I did the same thing that everybody else does.
Are you just getting into TIG welding? One of my favorite things to do is help me.
After I got the feeling back in my feet, I went to the computer and got on YouTube and started looking for TIG welding for beginners. I looked at the right machines, I looked for the right rods, I looked for the right techniques to make the TIG welds look a lot better. After we get all trained up on YouTube, we need to run to Harbor Freight and pick up some necessities. I only needed welding rods, but I'm sure some of you guys need to grab some gloves. You guys might need to look at getting a nice auto darkening hood. And then let's get started with some of the things that I've learned that I'm going to teach you. The first things first, I've got one of these Miller calculators. Basically, you set in the thickness of your material, and it'll tell you everything from the cup size to the flow rate to the tungsten. One other thing that is really big, always have you a box full of consumables. For today, I'm going to be using a standard TIG torch, a standard 3/8 cup, and a 16th tungsten. I don't know. For a 16th, that's where I put it at. If you have metal on it or if it's dipped or something, your arc isn't going to be very stable. Have stick out. I normally do about a 1/4 inch of stick out. 16th rod. And I always keep a grinder handy because I'm very new at this and I always get my tungsten dipped into the puddle. Those are some of the things. A really good welding hood. You have to have gloves if you're TIG welding because everything gets so hot. All right, guys, so now that we've established that we're going to TIG weld, there's a couple things that we really got to keep in mind before we get started. When I started up there on the other side of that cab getting it tacked in, I didn't really understand these concepts, and that's why it turned out so poorly. If you look at these pictures, my welds are really not good. It got too hot in some spots and it caused the panel to warp. So I went on the internet, I looked at some YouTube, I did a little bit of Googling, and I found out your fit up has to be perfect. And I'm going to walk you guys through how to make this weld in a way that it's perfect and it doesn't have a lot of heat in it. Now, I don't know how to do this. I'm going to learn how to do this, and you guys are going to learn with me. Now all we got to do is make sure we got our bends right. This isn't quite bent right because the bends were different on the front of the cab and the back of the cab, which means I need to put a little bit more bend in it. So I can probably just get away with doing this by hand. It just needs a little bit more to make it match. There we go. That's a pretty good fit right there all the way down. So I think we're going to go with that. I'm going to get the TIG set up, and we'll show you guys how to get this thing dialed in to make it look a lot better than what I did before. Got everything kind of together. We're going to use our arch enemy, the spaced holder there, to hold that in together, and then I'm going to go ahead and get this to where it's touching down here and get it tacked. Guys, a couple things that's kind of helped me out. When I initially started this, I blew it all apart because I wasn't going with the direction of travel. So I was trying to go like this, and I was basically driving the heat straight down in. Now, if you tilt it out sideways like this, you can get that thing to where it's blowing down towards you, the puddle blowing towards you, and you can dip your rod, your filler rod in and fill up that puddle. Whenever I tried to put this small stuff together, it just blew apart. So I have to have a little bit of filler rod, no matter how good my fit up is. So I'm going to go ahead and tack this about every inch, and then we'll come back and we'll see how we did as far as getting it in a line and getting everything straightened out. It'd be a lot easier if we were doing a flat panel, but this isn't a flat panel, and that's not real world. I don't have a flat panel. I'm doing it on a round, so that's what we're going to practice on. See if I can get a tack to stick without a filler rod here. Nope, it just wants to pucker out. I don't know how the pros do it, but I can't make it do it without puckering out, so I got to put a little filler rod in there to hold it. Okay, so this is going pretty good. One thing that I studied, and that's that we're coming together here. We're starting to come together right here. If you guys can see that, we're starting to overlap. When I said mistakes were made, whenever I was working on the top of the cab, I cut this off. And when I cut that off, I put a permanent buckle in the top. I don't know how I'm gonna fix it yet, but let me show you how to take care of this after I studied. Get yourself a hammer and a dolly. This dolly has about the same shape of what we're going for here. I'm gonna set it up on there, get my ears on so it's not ringing for the rest of the day. This is what was really bugging me whenever I was working on the top of the cab, was this thing overlapped like this. I didn't know how to fix it. So take a hammer and a dolly, put this dolly right there, and we're just gonna hammer this. Now that I've hammered that out, it's not overlapped anymore. It's perfectly in line. Let's keep welding. So I got a couple little things I got to fix, but for the most part, that turned out better than the first one did. The big thing about that is just to be patient. So all in all, I think that's a good result. So what I learned was, make sure your fit up's good, make sure your metal's clean, make sure your tungsten has the right grind on it. If you do those three things, you could probably have better success with a MIG. So I'm going to call that a win. Let's get up there and get started welding that top on. Now we've learned how to do some TIG welding, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this piece right down along this straight line. That way this will be our straight piece from the back forward, and we'll have this curved piece coming back in here to do our compound miter. This is where our downturn starts. You guys can see it's kind of got a divot in it right there. We can come in here and start tacking this. Tack and move, tack and move. That's a good result though. We got that to come up nice. So this will be a good transition to the down part. Whenever you're grinding your tungsten, you want to make sure that the lines are going with it. That way you got a nice, firm, stable arc. Make sure to put your tungsten in the right way, not like a dork like me. That's why this is amateur hour. Alright, so we're up here, we're ready to go. We've got our dolly, our hammers, we've got our rods, got our hood, and we got our TIG torch. It's ready to go, all trimmed up and stuck out to the right spots. The big thing we have to do is be patient and not blow this out. If we blow it out, it's going to turn into a warped mess. So that's my big deal right now, is being patient. Let's put what we learned to the test. We're going to bring this thing right back into our face. We got a good start. So we got a little bit of a dip there, so I have to reach up from the bottom, hammer that back out. We're got to drive this down now. This is up. We're going to drive this down and keep coming. We're looking real good right there. We'll hammer that down as we start coming together here. So, but we're looking really good. It's going pretty good, y'all. Going pretty good. This is bowed up a little bit. We're gonna pull it down with the ratchet strap.
Y'all keep an eye on that little bit right there. Perfect. No. Perfect. Dirt. Ah.
Oh man, that is looking so good. Now I get to go let off the ratchet strap.
There we go. Even 10 foot in the air, if you can get yourself comfortable and be patient, you can make these great welds and keep your heat down. You just keep putting in welds, hammering them out, putting in welds, hammering them out. Pretty soon, you're going to be done.
All right, we've got our first little bit of cross up here. As we've come down here, we've gotten so close together that we're crossed up down here. So we got to go up here and hammer this so that it'll spread back out and we can come on down here and finish our weld. But I'm really happy with what we've done. Let me show you guys how to hammer this down so that this down here will open up.
I didn't get this recorded, but it's just the same as before. You hammer on the welds so the bottom end opens up, and then you get back to welding. That's it.
All right, let's keep putting her in. All right, here we go.
Like everyone on the internet says, the key to this is being comfortable. But if you can't be comfortable, 10 foot in the air, balanced on a gas tank, you got to be patient. You got to take your time and do things the right way.
Here's what's kind of going on. I have blew a hole in it because I'm 10 feet off the ground. I can't control the pedal and I can't see from this height, so I have to go down one rung. And when I get down here to control the pedal, I can't see the puddle up here. So I've blown a hole in it. Now I get to fill the hole. This is the most frustrating part about TIG welding in real life. I'm not on a bench. I'm gonna try to reset and get comfortable. And that's what you guys should do. Be comfortable before you start and don't try to push a bad angle.
And when you get uncomfortable or lose your balance, just stop. Let off the pedal, let the heat die down, back up and start again. I really like this shot because it shows you everything that goes into doing this. Being on the ladder, having to work the pedal, trying to fill the hole up, At the end of the day, if you can't be comfortable, be patient. I'm just getting the arc started and working that arc back and forth nice and slow. The second I see the puddle disappear or start spreading out, I let off or add a little bit of filler rod. The key here is to be really, really patient. And when you get done, you should have a weld that looks something like this. It's not perfect, but it can be ground down. It can be dollied and hammered into something that's really, really nice. Key is to get it sanded out, find the low spots, dolly it out, and then rinse and repeat. So if you find yourself wandering around YouTube looking for somebody to teach you how to TIG weld, just remember, you got to make sure you have your machine set to the right settings. You got to have your fit up perfect. You got to make sure you got the right rods, and you got to make sure that you're comfortable. And if you can't be comfortable, you got to be patient. You put all those things together, you can end up with welds that look just like this. If you guys are finding value in this, share it with somebody else. Maybe they can learn something too. And thank you for watching The Long Way. Hit that like button and subscribe. We'll catch you guys on the next one.